great as 2024 is, there is some things we can improve on going into 2025, and as a whole in women's basketball. So we have some New Year's resolutions for the world of women's basketball. Andrew, if you would like to bat lead off here with your resolution, just fire away, man.
Yeah, I think like this is one that has a lot of room for media critique. And I think that was kind of a big discussion. And I think the New Year's resolution that I would probably have is for fans to find the middle ground in WNBA media. And I've been thinking about this a lot recently where there really isn't, a middle. And I don't mean a middle ideologically. I mean, there is not a massive infrastructure for women's sports coverage because it's either you're parachuting in for a national publication or you're like freelancing and like gritting it out, to just make sure the team has some type of play in particular, right? And I want you to imagine a world where in the NBA, we don't have Sam Amick or Marcus Thompson or Howard Beck or Keith Smith. And instead, it's either like local freelancers that are not being paid anything or Stephen A. Smith. And that's kind of what happened in the W this year is, the league itself was caught unaware by the absolute avalanche of attention that they got, but there wasn't a built-in infrastructure of people like our buddy Scott Agnes over at Fieldhouse Files, right? Like a guy that is every day on the beat doing like the traditional beat reporting, like Kriston Braswell, is kind of doing that with the Storm. I know he moved to Seattle this week or this year. Jeff Brown with Storm Chasers, like they exist in the league, but not in the numbers that we want them to. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we're going to start seeing more of it this year. And we're going to start seeing investment like the Chicago Tribune, for instance, or the Sun-Times with Annie Costabile, and local publications that see the money to be made in women's sports and see the attention and the interest in women's basketball and say, we need a full-time devoted beat writer in the summer that goes to these games and to these practices and covers the game professionally in a way that these other leagues get. And I do think on some level that we need to elevate and push those because we need middle ground voices in the sport again. I think we lost the plot a little bit this year. I think we had a tendency to overthink or a tendency to underthink. And not to toot our own horn here, but I think we did a good job of kind of occupying that middle, that context, that nuance that is needed. I think we're going to get more of that next year. But I guess the New Year's resolution would be for fans to lean into those channels a little bit more because on both ends of the spectrum, the players are the ones getting hurt. Like you're either on one side of the ideological divide, like you're getting racism, you're getting the misogynoir, you're getting all of these things that, attack Dejanay Carrington and Angel Reese and Asia Wilson, who people really need to lay off of considering she's a multi-time MVP at this point. But on the flip side of the argument, like you're getting a bunch of nasty shit about Caitlin and a bunch of nasty shit about players that, you would say argue on the other side. And so for me, I think getting back to center, getting back to the game, that's where we need to go.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Greer, what is your New Year's resolution for the world of women's basketball?
My New Year's resolution is for teams, franchises, the league, everybody to just kind of more so on like kind of still on the same media kick, but like recognize that it is about the players and it is about telling their stories. And so when people come knocking to tell a player on your team's story, answer the call. Answer the call. Be an active participant. You know what I'm saying? Right. If we can all agree that NIL, it's like an arms race for NIL, right? Like
Mm.
attention, right? And so like I will say like I appreciate every single player that has sat down with us this year,
Mm.
every single SID that has replied to an email and done their job and help us get the interviews and in contact with players, and like that stuff doesn't go unnoticed. I could actually name a few people by name who are exceptional at their
Yes.
jobs. But just in general, I want everyone to get better about it, right? Like the time to strike the iron, it's right now. It's
Mm.
right now. So if no cap, whatever other publication is calling and emailing and asking to speak to your player, like make that happen. And also impart on the athletes how important it is for them to take control of their stories and
Mm-hmm.
be an active participant in telling their own stories too,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like more coverage, and we need everybody. It takes like true partnership to make that happen, and
Yeah.
that would be my resolution for women's basketball heading into 20.
Amen.
I
Amen.
like it.
I like
I
that
like it.
one. I like that one. But no, like that's almost like kind of to the overtime select point. Like when it comes to players participating in like, in telling their story, like it's not like when we were there, like they were eager and excited. Like some of them, it was like their first sit down interview. Some of them they've been doing this, and it like the preparedness just to like they knew what time it was, but also like having fun with it, and but that balance already and being able to kind of strike that for especially for young players when we got to experience that in Atlanta at overtime select is so motivating that it kind of seems like I don't know if it's just growing up with social media and just being more tapped in, if it's just the increased attention, but like it seems like this generation coming up, like that is currently in high school right now. And
Yeah.
I think most like the freshmen and sophomores as well, like that have now kind of grown up and seen NIL for a little bit before entering, truly understand from a player perspective how that can be beneficial in generalizing kind of how it feels for from a player perspective from our perspective. But for my New Year's resolution, I just want everyone to tighten up. Okay? Like truly tighten up. I mean that all across the board. Whether it's fans not giving stupid stuff oxygen, whether it's the league and media companies misspelling graphics, whether it's releasing awards in NBA or WNBPA statements. Tighten up. I'm so exhausted about having the same conversation of the league shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of it. And it's happening in various different ways, whether it be teams, whether it be the league, like I said, whether it's kind of like the fans where it's just like why are we doing this again, like with different topics or whatever. And like to a point, of course, like as some you got to speak up for something certainly, and that's a whole different larger conversation. But just in general, let's tighten up, man. It's hoops, but also like Greer, to your point, we are in a moment that we have to take advantage of. And across the board, from a league perspective, from a media perspective, from a fan, like this is what we've been asking for. And whatever we can do, we as in the women's basketball community can do to mold this moment into what we want it to be, and not let outsiders come in and make it into something that is not at all what it is meant to be, and what we have loved about women's basketball for years now, way before certain this bad faith actors come in to play. It's on us as a women's basketball community to help mold that, and we just got to tighten up across the board. Like I wish that could be just a general mentality for the women's basketball community is the reflection of both the present and how acting certain ways or making certain mistakes looks like, but also what that means for the future and how people look at the WNBA and at women's basketball. Because this is as legit as it comes.
Can I
You
also
act like
say, like, I love obviously the multifacetedness of these athletes, right? Like,
Mhm.
I love that, right? Angel can be at Met Gala Monday and play the New
Mhm.
York Liberty on a Tuesday or whatever it was, right?
Mhm.
And absolutely kill.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, like, first and foremost, it is about the basketball.
Mhm.
It is about what is happening in between those lines.
Mhm.
And I just want everybody to your point, like tighten up, like let's focus on the game. I think
Mhm.
too many times this season, like where we just had right the most games ever in the WNBA season. We
Mm-hmm.
got a new franchise joining this year. We got two waiting in the wings
London.
coming up. Like, let's like really focus on the game because it is a great game,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you take like the basketball ecosystem at large right now.
Mm-hmm.
In my
This is
mind,
the best hoops, and I don't
women's
think it's
college
close.
basketball WNBA 1A 1B.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
like in terms of like the quality of hoop from especially at the very top, and so like let's appreciate the game that we're watching being played at unprecedented levels.
Mm-hmm.
That's another little
I'm
resolution
with
I
you.
have. A
Yeah.
lot of the discussion was not about basketball when it should have been about basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We can make time to talk about other things,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times the basketball got overshadowed this year, and I wasn't rocking with that.
And I think that falls on the league in certain ways. And like if there's a New Year's resolution, I hope Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA have is be more discerning about the press credentials that you award and the people that you court. Because again, to my point about two sides of the spectrum being an issue here this season, there is no reason Bobby, and I'll call him out their name here. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason Bobby Burek from Outkick should be getting coverage and getting credentials to show up to ask questions with zero intent to talk about the basketball. He's going there to go after Dejanay Carrington to get a soundbite to stir up shit online. Jim Trotter, the absolute other way. Jim Trotter shows up in Indy to write a column about Caitlin Clark and asks, nothing about basketball. It's all about Caitlin's status as this figure in regards to her whiteness and her place within the league itself. And then, Shawnee called him to the carpet, rightfully so, on Twitter about it later, saying, well, where are you for Asia Wilson winning the MVP? Oh, that's not my beat. Okay, then what are you doing there? And I do think the WNBA has a responsibility to these athletes after watching what just happened this year to better insulating them from those things, right? And we're recording this on December 30th. The Club 520 shit with Charleston White just happened. I'm not going to spend any more time on Charleston White's 53-year-old ass than I need to. But the
Yeah.
whole purpose and reason I'm bringing this up is because in that clip, which is now struck because the people that did the podcast, including Jeff Teague, realized how fucking stupid it looked. In that video clip, Charleston White is saying some of the nastiest, most vile, shock jock, Howard Stern, Don Imus level shit about the WNBA. And one of the dudes on the panel is trying to cravenly, quietly, like, yo, bro, like, we're trying to get to All-Star this year. Like, chill. We're trying to get to All-Star this year. If I see Club 520 at All-Star, I will know the W has failed. Because the gatekeeping that should be done about this league isn't how many legends you know. It's not how long you've been watching the game. It has nothing to do with who brought you in, whether that's Candace or Asia or Stewie or Sab or Cece or anybody else. The gatekeeping done in this league is about the baseline level of respect that you yeah, I stuck to bring in there.
That
The
was,
baseline level of
that was funny.
respect that you
Grease face.
have towards these women. Like, if you can't show basic respect to show up to a press conference and ask about the basketball in addition to the other stuff, then you're not here for these women and for this league. You are here to make them pawns in a cause. And I think personally, these women have worked their asses off to deserve to be more than that. And this year, every athlete, whether it was sometimes by their own making or by the title that they were given, they were made to be dehumanized in an election year to be pawns for one side or the other. These are women's professional basketball players that have their own causes, that have their own viewpoints, and that's fine. You can agree or disagree or whatever. But if you are a member of the press and you're showing up to just do that stuff, like, I think the W has to tamp down on that. And so, Kathy, I know you're probably not watching, but if you are, I think you're great. Please don't pull our credentials. But
Someone in the orbit is watching. But just recognize who has good intentions and is doing it truly for the love of the game. And listen, I'm not even gonna
We lost that a bit.
I didn't watch the Teague shit. I didn't watch 520 because I'm just not interested in watching a bunch of men sitting around with mics. Just generally speaking, not my. Hey,
What did you
that's
say
why we have balance here, right? Like that's
damn. I feel like I'm on thin ice now. Let me lock in.
That's part of the reason we're constructed as we are, right? Is for that balance, right? And so, yeah, I didn't watch it. And they're far from the only ones who are guilty of like that kind of shit too, by the way. You know what I'm saying? And so like it's just on everybody to just to be better and give attention to the shit that really matters. Straight up. And the basketball matters more than ever, and that's what we should be focusing on.
Amen. New Year's resolutions. Write them down. Do what you need to do, women's basketball community. Whatever you got to do to make yourself stick to it. I don't want to see no one in the gym the first and the second and out in the third. We need to lock in.